The first thing that you want to do when you're doing an equation is figure out if the solution you're talking about is acidic or basic. So we know the problem right here. It tells us we have hydrochloric acid. Well, we know that hydrochloric acid is an acid, so we can only use equations that refer to something with H plus concentration in it, or something that contains H. So for this one, since it's asking for our H plus, if you remember, H3O is a synonym for H plus, and then we need to find the hydroxide and the molarity. So our first step is to figure out what equation we're using. What we said, we're talking about an acid, so we're going to use the equation pH equals negative log of H plus, because that's what we're trying to solve for. Remember, H plus again is a synonym. So for this one, we know our pH, so 3.1 equals negative log of H plus. Well, in order to solve for the H plus here, we have to figure out how to get rid of our negative log. So the first step that you want to do is get rid of the negative sign. So we're just going to multiply the entire equation by negative, so we're going to turn this side positive, which will then in turn that side negative. So we now have negative 3.1 equals log, again that negative's gone, so it's just log of H plus. So log, it's called log base 10. So in order to get rid of something that is base 10, we have to raise it to an exponent. So to get rid of log, we're going to do 10 to the power. Because where we want to put log in an exponent, since it's called log base 10, we want to get rid of the base 10 part, so we raise it to the power of 10. Well, whatever you do on one side, you have to do the other side. So in your calculator, you would type in 10 to the negative 3.1, and you should get an answer of 7.94 times 10 to the negative 4th. Again, you should make sure you know how to do that in your calculator, so double check and make sure when you plug it in, you get your H plus as 7.94 times 10 to the negative 4th. That got us our H3O ion, but now we still need to find our OH negative. Well, since we have our H plus ion, we can use our next equation, which is H plus times OH negative equals 1.0 times 10 to the negative 14. There are multiple ways you could have done this. You could have converted the pH into POH and solved for OH, or you can do it this way. And when you calculate that out, you should get your OH to equal, so you're going to plug that in for H plus, then you should get OH equals 1.26 times 10 to the negative 11. So that's our second answer. Now it's asking for molarity. So if you remember molarity, the equation that contains molarity is when we do H plus, since we're talking about an acid, we always have to use the acid equations, is molarity times number of H's. So if you look, our H plus we know is the 7.94 times 10 to the negative 4th equals, well, we're solving for M, and we know in HCl there's only one H, so we have times 1. So our M is going to be the same answer this time as our concentration. Okay, the next one, so problem 14. So it says that a solution has a pH of 1.9. So it tells us we have a pH of 1.9, which means we are given information on pH, so we want to use our pH equation. It's asking us to find for H plus. So we know pH equals negative log of H plus. So we know that that's the equation we want to use. Well, we plug in our pH is 1.9 equals negative log of our H plus. Remember, H3O, H plus, synonyms for each other. Again, we want to get rid of the negative sign because we want to get H by itself. So we want to get rid of the log. So we're going to turn that positive, turn inside negative. To get rid of a log, it's called log base 10. We want to raise it to the power and put log in an exponent. Those are inverse of each other. So raise it to the power of 10, it gets rid of that and turns that into a 1. Now, since we did that on one side, we do it on the other side. So we do 10 to the power of negative 1.9, and you should get that H plus equals 0.013 M. That's the first answer it asks for. The next one, it asks us to find the POH. Well, we know we have the pH, So we can use the equation pH is POH equals 14. So we know the scale goes from 0 to 14, to switch from one to the other, subtract it from 14. So we plug in 1.9 plus POH equals 14. We just solve for that, and our POH will be 12.1. If you did not write all these equations on your periodic table, make sure you have them on there. Your homework, which again you do in the homework section, is the next problem.